to recognize the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Gonzales, for 5 minutes of questions.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Meyers, for testifying before our committee. I'll tell you what, I was very not surprised, but disappointed to see how everything went down, but that's kind of the way it works in this space. And I was grateful on how quickly CrowdStrike responded when they did find an error. I tell you what, I mean, I'm in government. I don't see people that fess up and said, hey, we made a mistake, work to fix it, and then as you're doing that, send a report out so other people don't find that same mistake. Usually it's try to cover it up and move on to the next thing. So I was grateful the fact on how hard y'all worked to get things back up. I'm interested, and I was grateful for the call that we got on literally days after it occurred. Clearly, you know your stuff inside and out. I'm interested in how do we make sure, you know, if this happens again, that we're in a spot where we can fix it, right? And I'd argue that CrowdStrike is probably one of the better organizations that are out there. So what if it's a different vendor that maybe doesn't have the same resources, the same integrity, and whatnot? And so I'm looking at it through the lens of, you know, speed is the name of the game in this industry. And a lot of times you want to get ahead of the problem before, as it's evolving. Your technical report, let's dive into that a little bit. I mean, how has that been received in the industry? How has that been received in government? Have you had any conversations with CISA or others on the technical piece to what went wrong and how do we fix it?
Thank you for the question, sir. Let me start by saying that we were immediately in contact with CISA and many of your staffs to talk about this issue when it happened. Once we had gotten most of the recovery underway, we issued a preliminary incident report, which was available on the website, which was effectively put out to ensure that everybody understood what we knew at that point in time. We then gathered as many of our engineers as we needed to in order to start work on the comprehensive root cause analysis. We brought in external parties as well. And then we produced that root cause analysis as soon as it was available, which was, I believe, the first week in August or so. The dates are a little bit fuzzy at this point. But we had the RCA out. The response that I've heard from most of the folks that I've spoken to have been that they appreciated the level of depth that that report went into. And I think more importantly, that the plan that we put in place to prevent this from happening in the future is something that everybody acknowledged to me was going to enable our customers to have more control.
One of the concerns I have is every company does it a little bit different. Like there is no standardized process to it. And that's just a little troublesome because, you know, when everyone's doing it differently, you're relying on, well, we've never had this problem before. Well, we're about to have a lot of problems that we've never had before, and I want us to get ahead of it. I just don't want this to be a flash in the pan where like, hey, you're in the flash today, someone else is in the flash tomorrow. Like we're all in this thing together. And so I'm really focused on solutions, getting ahead of it. And like I said, you know, 8 million people may have gotten impacted, but how fast you turn that around, I thought I was grateful for that. But what happens when next time it isn't that fast? And so my question is I'm trying to figure out what role government plays in this. And so my question is, I've introduced this piece of legislation. It's called the National Digital Reserve Corps, which would recruit cybersecurity professionals to help during major incidences that occur. Based on your experience with large-scale cyber incidents, do you think having a reserve of cybersecurity experts on standby would improve our response and recovery efforts?
Thank you for the question, Congressman. And I think that first I would say transparency is the answer to your initial question. It is important for CrowdStrike and for others to be transparent when these things occur, because every system is different. Every product is different. They all have different components, so they can't all be uniformly thought of. So fixing one problem on one product isn't necessarily directly applicable to other products. That said, transparency is absolutely critical and why we endeavored to be so transparent when this occurred. As far as having additional reserve forces on standby, I think in a situation where there's a cyber threat, and again, this was not an attack or cyber attack, I think that is certainly beneficial. There's never a situation where less skilled operators is going to be better.
I'm out of time. I appreciate you coming to testify before the committee and once again being transparent throughout this process, the good, the bad, and the ugly. With that, I yield back, Chairman.
Gentleman yields back.